Hi everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Dan Pardo, and this is Pardo's Turn, my weekly Wednesday web series where I analyze a classic show tune from a music director's point of view, and with the help of a special guest, perhaps shed some light on what makes the gems of our musical theater canon so great. Today I'm just busting to introduce the lovely and ridiculously talented Stephanie D'Abruzzo, best known for her Tony-nominated performance in Avenue Q. She has also starred in the musical episode of Scrubs, and has been a puppeteer on Sesame Street since 1993, over half the length of the show's incredible 50-plus year run. While she often performs alongside her favorite Jim Henson creations, this rendition of Fine Fine Line will be all Stephanie. In the fun score of playful up-tempo hits like If You Were Gay, The Internet Is for Porn, Schadenfreude, and Everyone's a Little Bit Racist, Jeff Marx and Bobby Lopez undoubtedly earned their one signature ballad. And There's a Fine Fine Line is so good, so well written, that it cements the importance of these characters for the audience, strengthening all the songs that surround it, and making the show not only charming, but moving. Not only clever, but insightful. Not only entertaining, but, I'll say it, the best musical of 2004. Like Gertrude McFuzz from Seussical or Olive from Spelling Bee, it's easy to write off the power and potency of a character like Kate Monster, claiming that she's just a puppet, or dismissing Avenue Q as a simple parody. But the music in Fine Fine Line is captivating and sincere, not to be played for laughs. The melody begins with a title hook, walking down in stepwise motion. The harmony too walks down from the tonic and root position to a passing dominant chord, and ultimately to a somber minor 6, followed by a minor 2, and a dominant 5 with a 4-3 suspension. If that sounds familiar, it's because it is. I described the same exact chord progression in episode 29 with the bittersweet Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. The next phrase doubles down on that chord progression and raises the stakes in the melody, starting higher on the 5th scale degree. In the B section of the verse, the oblique motion between Kate Monster's steady vocal and the descending bass line creates the necessary tension for her lyric, "And you never know till you reach the top if it was worth the uphill climb." And the unexpected resolution to that minor 4, which lies outside the given key, tugs at our heartstrings even more as she launches into verse 2. Like many of the other songs that we've examined, the second verse is the same as the first, with one major development. The accompaniment gets busier, and the drums kick in, implying that she's getting more active about her feelings. Sick of this will they or won't they style relationship, she decides to take matters into her own hands. This is realized fully in the bridge, one of the most triumphant in the entire musical theater canon. The pop rock grooves really kicks in with strong hits on the backbeat. She belts out the highest note of the song, saying, "I don't think that you even know what you're looking for." And in the next lyric, "For my own sanity, I've got to close the door," the harmony employs a technique called secondary dominance, briefly tonicizing the minor 2 with an unexpected chromatic chord. "For my own sanity, I've gotta close the door and walk away." It's there to tell her that the path forward is in someplace new. The last verse starts more introspective, again with a sparse accompaniment in a higher registration, but it quickly grounds itself and gears up for the stirring coda. The minor 4 chord used at the top of the song is still there, but it's no longer melancholy. It feels like a welcome challenge, giving her power under the lyric, "While you're still in your prime." The final declaration, too, is a familiar refrain from the end of the first verse, but now she's not trapped or defeated by it. She's driven to finally take control of her life and move on. Thanks so much for coming on, Stephanie. This is so great. I always feel guilty when I ask a singer to perform the signature song, because, so many times like that, again, your enthusiasm is just a testament to the strength of the song itself.
Oh, well, I gotta tell you, I'm lucky to have something that's remotely equivalent to a signature song, so that's an honor. It's a great song, but also, thank you for giving me the opportunity to sing it without the puppet, because when I have sung it in cabarets without Kate, and it's a
Did you do it for your Birdland concert?
You know what, here's what's funny, I purposely didn't do Fine Fine Line, and I should have as an encore. It was so crazy because I guess at that time, that was 2005, I was still doing the show, people would ask me to do benefits and one-nighters, and it would always be contingent on me bringing the puppet. So I guess that Birdland show felt like a little rebellion. Like, well, I can sing other things, and I can sing without a puppet. And now with time, out of context of the show and out of character, it means something different to me. It means a lot of things.
And your performance is much different as well.
The performance is different. I mean, it's still my voice, but the vocal quality is different. You know, Kate doesn't belt like that.
Right.
And what's interesting is when they had the 15th anniversary this summer, you know, there was one of those listicles about, here are the 15 performances of Fine Fine Line that you should hear. And I guess I wanted to defend myself a little because they took a bootleg from the show as the example of mine, and they didn't really have a lot of great things to say about it. Just like, this is the original you sang along with in the car. And I wanted to say, well, you do know that's not really my performance, that's Kate's performance.
Exactly.
Like, that's how I see Kate singing the song. And that's not to say that it's a, you know, split personality situation. I'm very sane about my relationship with puppet characters, but it really is, that's Kate's.
Now you do a lot of voice work as well. Do you consider your work as a puppeteer similar in that regard?
Yeah, the only difference is you're not having to deal with this, and this is a lot of concentration. It's second nature to me, but you still have to think about it. In fact, when I was doing the cast recording, what was interesting about that is it was the first time I sang the song without my mind being split. Because really, you do have to think about a bunch of different things. You have to think about performing the song and all of the technique that it takes to do that, but the puppetry in that moment is very important. And even though things like lip sync and eye focus are second nature to me from doing it for so long, you have to be mindful. It wasn't that it was a challenge, it was actually kind of freeing.
Sure.
There are stigmas about puppetry. So when I've gone into voiceover auditions, they're like, so don't do anything too puppety. and I don't approach puppets or voiceover character, I treat them like characters.
Sure.
And I think there are people who see puppets as meow 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 meow.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. And there are great performers who will put on a puppet and their cadence will fall into that, I'm a little girl and I'm here, and I'm like, dude, I taught myself puppetry in college. Puppetry,
Northwestern, right?
Yeah, Northwestern, go Cats. I was a radio, TV, film major. I was actually running away from acting. I thought, well, maybe I'd do broadcast journalism. And when I applied to Northwestern, when it came time to pick the school, I thought, well, I don't want to work on a newspaper. I'll do RTVF. Best mistake I ever made. I fell in love with production, and then I started acting on camera again. I'd get typed out. I'd gain the freshman 45. I had a bad perm, and at that time, you know, when you're in college, you got the comfort food, and Sesame Street was one of those comfort foods for me. I was always a big Muppet fan, and I sort of rediscovered it through the eyes of an actor. So I'm watching Sesame Street and the Muppets, and I'm going, wait a minute, the guy who's doing Bert is also the guy who's doing Grover. And he also does Fozzie, and he also does Sam the Eagle, and piecing these things together and thinking, this is amazing character comedy.
Yeah.
They're singing, they're improvising,
It's brilliant.
and it didn't matter what it looked like. So I started teaching myself puppetry in college just by watching and imitating.
So it was about, what, 10, 11 years on Sesame Street before you got involved with Avenue Q, is that right?
It was probably less than that. The first reading was May of 2000. Brian Yorkie was our first Brian, and Amanda Green was our first Gary Coleman. It was just all their BMI pals.
Yeah.
And Amanda Green was the one who referred them to Ann Harada. And we did it like this because if you're at music stands and say you're Brian Yorkie, this is the only way the puppet's going to be able to look in your eye. If I'm doing it the way we're accustomed to doing it, it's going to be weird.
Yes.
And we didn't try to hide ourselves. But then after that first reading, everyone's like, what a bold, creative choice to show the performers.
So it just kind of stuck.
It was very effective because Muppet-style puppetry, we really rely on that single camera lens. That's why we work off of monitors, off of television monitors, so that we know we can direct a dress. Well, in a theater, you've got 100, 500, 1,000 different lenses.
Right.
And we use that camera lens to portray emotion. Looking up can be this, and looking down can be that, and we didn't have that luxury of that single lens, so our faces became the subtitle.
Right.
So if I had Kate just in a neutral pose, she could be fuming, she could be deadpan, she could be content. Then there was also an issue of, well, where should we look? Because for a long time we were looking at the book, and I remember when we were at the O'Neill, by then, you know, the songs are all memorized, and I would be looking at Kate, and I thought, this is not right. I feel like I'm closing off the audience, and also, it's like that ventriloquist relationship,
Right.
as opposed to this whole thing embodies the character. And then I think that helped with the distraction, because a lot of people would say I didn't know where to look at first, but then it just sort of all flows over you.
The two big Tony years I remember growing up was '96, when it was Ragtime pitted against Lion King, and then 2004 with Avenue Q pitted against Wicked. In your experience, like as a member of the company, was that animosity that we experienced through that?
It was so funny because we were not super successful our first 6 months, and if we were not cheap to run, we would have closed in 3 months. We were a word of mouth show. People were not going to pay $100 to see a puppet show.
Right.
And so when Wicked opened, we're like, oh my God, we're going to get eclipsed by this show. Well, what wound up happening is a lot of kids who couldn't get in the Wicked lottery came to see us and liked our show, liked our message. We shared a lot of the same demographic. You know, if you have a good show that's attracting someone and bringing them to town, they're not going to come to town just to see one show. Maybe they'll see us. So we saw the value in having great shows around us. I think that was all just ginned up for the award season, but what was so sad about it is people really took that to heart. A lot of people, when we first won, like, yeah, it's David and Goliath, and oh my God, we were so happy when you won. And now there are so many kids who are so angry that we won the Tony over Wicked, because Wicked has become so beloved among kids. And so kids who either weren't alive back then or who were very young and who came to love Wicked more than us. I mean, I get it, we're not everyone's cup of tea.
But then they grow up and then they'll appreciate you too.
Right, but I didn't realize it until I was doing a night of Stephen Schwartz music at 54 Below, and Phil Bond was hosting, and he's like, and we have an original cast member from blah blah blah, and we have an original cast member from blah blah blah, and we have an original cast member from Avenue Q, and the whole place went, ooh. And I turned to someone, I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? It's like, you know, because of the Tony. And I'm like, really? What year is this? Like, but then again, it's not like I won the Tony. I mean, it's not like they let us take it home like the Stanley Cup.
Right.
I didn't even see that Tony for years until I went to a show at the Vineyard and they had it on display. I'm like, oh, that's the Tony.
Speaking about the lens of time, we're 15 years out from Avenue Q.
You were in short pants, as we have surmised by now.
I think when it came out, it was really freeing, especially a song like Everyone's a Little Bit Racist.
Yeah.
Kind of, I think, put me at ease, and to look at different social issues in a different lens. And I feel like the conversation might be changing today. Do you feel like...
Well, here's what's interesting. So back then, If You Were Gay was the taboo song, and Everyone's a Little Bit Racist was the... And now, those things have just totally switched. And there are schools that don't want to do Everyone's a Little Bit Racist because they feel that it's insensitive. It's not permission to be racist. And I think that that's very first and foremost, that was in our minds back then, that's in our minds now. Although I will say, when I was first learning the song, and I'm humming it to myself, and I'm, you know, when you're in a reading and you're learning something, you find yourself singing it on the street. I'm in the Burlington Coat Factory on 6th Avenue going, everyone's a little bit, sometimes. I mean, no, but what's interesting about that song is that it also makes you think, how am I responding to this song? And I started thinking about the way the puppets look, because Sesame Street for a really long time, you know, abstract puppets, you don't know what race Ernie and Bert are.
Exactly.
They're not so spelled out as, well, this is, and then I thought, oh gosh, Kate is light brown and Princeton is orange in his hair. Princeton could be Latino, he could be Hispanic, he could be black, he could be, you know, a myriad of races. And is Kate white because I'm white? But you know what? It's never a bad thing to think about. And if a song makes you think, that's what's important. I'm a white, cisgendered, heterosexual. I don't have the right to say some things, but I do feel like, look, if you're not going to be challenged when you come to the theater, if you're not going to let yourself be challenged, man, then you got to think about why you're on this planet.
Right.
There's a fine, fine line between a lover and a friend. There's a fine, fine line between reality and pretend. And you never know till you reach the
are two things that
Yeah.
I just want to say that I love you in.
Oh.
One is the Scrubs musical episode.
Ah, thank you.
It is so damn funny, and the other one was the Finding Nemo musical.
Oh my gosh, I got to do so little on that,
Yeah,
but I
well-
was lucky to get to play.
Well, just to see your name on the
CD.
CD was put a smile on my face.
that was
so.
just sheer luck. Bobby's a good guy, and
Both of
he
those
let
just
me.
bring so much joy.
But Scrubs was just lucky.
Yeah.
That was Deborah Fordham, who wrote the episode, who did not know me from Adam.
Mhm.
But she saw me in I Love You Because, which is the show I left Avenue Q to do.
Right.
And she thought, hey, she can sing without a puppet. And getting to sing the stuff that Jeff and Bobby wrote and that Deb and Paul Perry wrote, it was just so lucky because I don't get to do on-camera acting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get cast. I've only ever done 2 on-camera jobs that are real. One was PSA in 2001 with Ed McMahon,
Okay.
and the Scrubs musical, and I think, well, you know, if that's the only thing I ever do on camera, I'm really fortunate that it's something that people remember
Yeah.
and think highly of and say such nice things about.
Mhm.
Bill Lawrence, apparently, was a big musical theater fan, and he wanted to do a musical for a long time, and Deb told me they weren't going to do it unless it made sense for the show.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to find a medical reason, and she found in a medical textbook an
Mhm.
example of a woman who heard music. Not only was there care and love put into it, but the fans liked it. And I have to tell you, if you're a Scrubs fan, everyone was so wonderful.
Oh, good. Good.
They we had a week of
That's good to
rehearsal, and
hear.
they could not have been nicer. Oh my God! And Ken Jenkins was the nicest one of all. Dr. Kelso, right?
I think a lot of that speaks to you too. I was just really touched by your kind email when I
Are
reached
you
out.
kidding? You were so nice to me in the Come From Away reading. I love working with good music directors. They're hard to find. You can be a brilliant musician, but if you can't communicate, you're not an MD. There's just something about someone saying, "Hey, you want to have fun?"
Well, I've had so
I like
much
having
fun.
fun. I love
This
having
has been
fun with
such
you.
an honor and a pleasure. If you like this episode as much as I have liked filming it, then please give us a big thumbs up, subscribe, follow all of Stephanie's stuff. Do you have...
I'm on Twitter. Is my only social media
Okay.
compromise. D'Abruzzo tweets. I don't tweet as often as I should, but and then I have a defunct blog
Okay.
from 2010 to 2013 that was not about my feelings. You can find it via my website, stephaniedabruzo.com.
Okay, we'll link that, both of those below.
Yeah,
So-
yay!
All right, see you next week.
For my
Bye.
own sanity, I've gotta close